From the sounds of it, everyone was starving in this film. Chase Oyaki here with the Blue Futon reviewing The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. If I'm saying that wrong, slap in the face. But what's about? Pretty simple premise. We're looking at Mr. Snow, Cornelius Snow, if I'm saying that correctly, back in the day of how he started to be almost this head figure of the Hunger Games. And what was his love of his life? What was his family like? What was his friends like? What was the Capitol like back in the day? So, did I like this film? No, it was so boring. Anyway, you wanted to know, look, Chase, you saw it in 4DX. Tell us what was that 4DX experience? It was boring too. I mean, when I said the seats were like this the whole time, woo! There was more movement in the Willy Wonka trailer with Timothée Chalamet than this movie. Yes, you get some water effects. There was more water effects than seats moving. There was bubble effects to do the whole snow thing, which was kind of cool. But the 4DX for this one was by far the worst 4DX experience I have experienced, bar none. The next one will be Wish in 3D 4DX on Tuesday. I'll let you guys know how that is. I know the reviews are out. I was going to see the special screening tomorrow, but I decided, no, I'll just wait for the 4DX. Anyway, the movie itself, it was boring. This was like 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes. And yes, we got some interesting backstory elements of how the Hunger Games started. And it was fun to see that. And it was good acting by the side characters. You had, Jason Schwartzman. You had Viola Davis. You had Peter Dinklage. Yes, you had those side characters that were very interesting and kind of funny. Jason Schwartzman, to me, stole the show in this movie 110%. But then the main characters you're watching, you're like, yeah, the person that played Snow is fine. Rachel Zegler, it was kind of awkward casting overall. Yeah, her singing was fine, but some of her facial reactions and just things she was doing in the movie just felt off overall. The movie itself just felt off. The whole experience of putting into 3 different acts and just too much happened in the first hour 15 minutes, and the rest of the movie was a freaking bore. I understand what they're going for. They want to have these backstories and these side characters try to do something interesting, but it wasn't interesting, and that's the problem. When looking back at the Hunger Games and how it started the first 10 years, that is interesting how it was not a wide-ass arena. It was literally everyone in a bubble, gladiator style. You're in this arena for 10 minutes, and it's balls to the wall, no shit. Here they decided to do something a little bit different because these rebels, even though they talk about the rebels, there's not a lot of rebel activity other than the arena coming down, unless I completely missed it. Also, before that, you see in the trailer where like Jon Snow is like very little. You get that is like maybe 5 minutes of the movie, so you really don't know what happened. You know there was a war, but what started the war? What happened from the war to the 10 years of the Hunger Games? You don't get that. You literally get, oh, Snow's a baby. Oh, Snow now is in basically high school / college. Oh, and now he's now at District 12, and he has his love interest. Like, it is kind of scatterbrained, and that's the biggest fault. Like I said, I enjoyed the first hour and 15 minutes of how the old school Hunger Games felt, and Jason Schwartzman, freaking hysterical. He stole the show the first hour and 15 minutes. No shit, it was that good. But man, after that, it dragged on forever. Yes, you could say the environments were gorgeous. The cinematography, and like I said in the out of the theater reaction, is I enjoyed the lenses, if you know what I mean. Like, it looked like it was a peephole, but it was a wide lens peephole. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting how we're getting the environment, but it's really focused on these main characters in the center. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool camera work that you're trying to just showcase what you're doing. But it just felt unnecessary. And I think that's the biggest fault is you have, and I think they're doing it now with this issue with like Hunger Games, with this and comparing it to Hunger Games, which came out in like 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And you also have Willy Wonka versus the new Wonka. You want to talk about the past, but you're making everything more futuristic that came before, if that makes sense. For example, Willy Wonka, and then you're comparing it to, the Gene Wilder version. It's like that technology feels like it's too recent for that, as well as, the cast of characters diversity. You can say it the same way here, is when you're in the coal miner town with the Jennifer Lawrence version, it wasn't as diverse. And I don't know what they're trying to say with, the past. If we really want to go with how society has gone, I don't know. That's what I'm saying is, yes, you have this snake pit. You have all these things that make it interesting, but there is no rhyme or reason of how that would connect and how that would correlate with everything that happened in Jennifer Lawrence movies. So I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of mismatching going on. And it just abruptly ends. This movie abruptly ends. And how I'm supposed to just randomly think that this guy had a complete mental breakdown in the last 15 minutes of the movie. And you're just like, bam, Dunskies, it's snowing outside, and the Hunger Games are going to continue on for the next 50-ish years. Because, well, probably longer than that, because Snow, Donald Sutherland in these Hunger Game movies has got to be in his 60s, early 70s. So yeah, 50, 60 years. It was a scatterbrained movie. I was bored. The 4DX didn't work. And you could tell I wasn't the only one in the audience. So overall, Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, very boring. The only really good acting, I could say, yes, those were good actors, was Jason Schwartzman, Viola Davis, and Peter Dinklage. And something about Snow's cousin, the eyebrows really freaking bothered me. But yeah, I don't recommend this one. And I thought when I did my box office predictions, would get 46 million, and I bumped it up to about 55 million because there's a lot more people like pre-orders versus Marvels. But I think this word of mouth will be worse than the Marvels. But let's give you my score. So the Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes will receive a 2 out of 5 with Futons. It goes at 40%. We'll see the critics' news scores gave this one. Critics a 60 with 157 of them. Audience score at 92 with over 250. Critic consensus. The outstanding cast and excellent story helps make The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes a worthy return to Panem in spite of a rushed and somewhat frustrating ending. Yeah, the ending was rushed. The ending was basically like him having a mental breakdown for 15 minutes. You're just like, I don't believe everything that happened 2 hours before that. But my God, I was maybe I'm in the opposite, and I just think this was boring as balls. 40, 60, 92? Am I crazy? Chase like with the blue Futon, like, comment, subscribe. One of the things, Butontopia, Buton, think what a great day. I don't care what to take tomorrow, week, month, or year, for every single freaking one of you. 92? What?